Trades, and more trades. That's the conversation surrounding the New England Patriots right now, especially when it comes to the wide receiver position. And while everyone keeps bringing up A.J. Brown, there are serious financial obstacles that make that move extremely complicated before June 1st. According to Over the Cap, trading for Brown prior to June 1st would carry a $48.9 million cap charge, resulting in a $25.5 million loss in cap space for the Eagles, along with only a $5 million cap credit in 2027. That kind of structure makes it incredibly difficult, especially when you're dealing with a front office led by Howie Roseman, who historically does not move elite players easily. So if that move feels unlikely in the immediate future, the question becomes, where do the Patriots turn next? Let's start by looking at the current wide receiver depth chart. You have Stefon Diggs, Pop Douglas, Keyshawn Boot, Mac Hollins, Jalen Polk, and Kyle Williams. The biggest financial question centers around Stefon Diggs. His 2026 cap hit sits at $26.5 million. If the Patriots cut him before June 1st, they would save $16.8 million. If they designate him as a post-June 1st cut, the savings jump to $20.8 million. When you're working with roughly $40 million in cap space, freeing up close to $21 million is significant. The issue is that while Diggs is still productive, he is not a true deep threat anymore. And this offense desperately needs someone who can take the top off the defense for Drake Maye. One name that continues to generate buzz is Brian Thomas Jr., the 23-year-old wide receiver out of LSU, stands 6'2", 209 pounds, and was once projected to be one of the league's next breakout stars. Coming from LSU's wide receiver pipeline that produced Jamar Chase and Malik Nabers, expectations were sky high. During his rookie year, he showed flashes of elite production. But in 2025, after Liam Cohen arrived, his numbers dipped. He played 14 games and averaged 50 yards per game compared to 75 yards per game previously, and his touchdowns dropped from 10 to just 2. Some of that regression can be attributed to the offensive system and target distribution. With players like Parker Washington and tight end Brenton Strange also involved, the question is whether you're willing to give up a first-round pick for a player coming off a down season. The talent is undeniable, but draft capital matters. Then there's Michael Pittman Jr., 6'4 inches, 224 pounds, 26 years old. A big-bodied receiver with strong route running ability and 1 year left on his contract. He's coming off a statistically inconsistent stretch. In 2023, he had 109 receptions. In 2022, he nearly hit 100, but his yards per catch dropped to 9.8, and while he did see a slight uptick in touchdowns recently, the explosive plays haven't been there. He has just 21 receptions of 20-plus yards. For a player of his size, you'd expect more vertical impact. If he becomes a cap casualty, signing him cheaply makes sense. Trading meaningful draft capital for him, that's more debatable. Do the Patriots need another possession-style target, or do they need someone who can stretch the field? Another polarizing name is DJ Moore. At 28 years old, turning 29 in April, Moore's production has dipped compared to his prime years with the Carolina Panthers. Last season with the Bears, he had 50 receptions for 682 yards and 6 touchdowns across 17 games. His yards per catch hovered near 14, but the overall volume was down. Before that, he had back-to-back seasons with over 900 yards and 90 receptions. The talent is still there, but the financial commitment is steep. A $24.5 million cap hit for that level of production is hard to justify. If the Patriots are already debating Stefon Diggs' number, why take on a similar cap hit for less output? Unless the compensation is minimal, it's a tough sell. And then there's Jordan Addison, just 24 years old, 5'11", 175 pounds, blazing speed, and legitimate WR1 upside. With the Minnesota Vikings, he has produced despite playing behind Justin Jefferson. In 2023 and 2024, he posted strong touchdown numbers, including double-digit scores in one season. Even in less stable quarterback situations, he managed solid yardage totals. But the off-field concerns are real. Since entering the league, there have been multiple incidents, including speeding, a DUI, and a trespassing situation. There were also disciplinary issues that led Kevin O'Connell to bench him during a game for missing a walkthrough. Talent-wise, he may be the most intriguing option on this list. But can the Patriots afford to bring in another player with off-field questions, especially when stability is crucial during Drake Maye's development? This is the crossroads the Patriots face. They need explosiveness. They need separation. They need someone who can elevate the offense. But every option carries risk, financial, developmental, or behavioral. So the question for you is simple. If A.J. Brown is off the table for now, which of these wide receivers would you actually be willing to trade for? And how much draft capital would you give up to make it happen? And when you really sit down and think about it, this decision isn't just about adding a name. It's about defining what this offense is going to look like for the next 3 to 5 years. Drake Maye is the centerpiece. Everything has to revolve around maximizing his development. That means protection. Yes, that means adding help on the offensive line and an edge on the defensive side. But it also means giving him a receiver who can change the way defenses line up on Sundays. Right now, when defensive coordinators look at the Patriots' receiver room, they're not losing sleep. Stefon Diggs is respected, but at this stage of his career, he's not consistently threatening over the top. Pop Douglas is dynamic underneath. Keyshawn Boot is ascending and has shown flashes of becoming a reliable target. Mac Hollins gives you blocking and effort. Kyle Williams brings speed. But there isn't that one player who forces a safety to stay deep every snap. There isn't that one guy where corners are automatically giving 5 to 7 yards of cushion. That's why Brian Thomas Jr. is so intriguing despite the regression. At 6'2" inches with real vertical ability, he profiles as the kind of receiver who can win downfield. Even in a down year, defenses still had to account for his speed. If the Patriots believe the dip in production was system-related rather than talent-related, that changes everything. You're not trading for the 50 yards per game player, you're trading for the 75 yards per game, double-digit touchdown upside. But it comes down to draft philosophy. Do you trust your scouting department to find similar talent at pick 31? Or do you take the proven NFL player who's still just 23 years old? Michael Pittman Jr. presents a different conversation. He's more of a chain mover. He wins with size, positioning, and physicality. He can be a quarterback's security blanket for a young quarterback like Drake Maye that has value, but if you're asking him to be the guy who takes the top off the defense, the numbers suggest that's not his game. 21 catches of 20-plus yards over multiple seasons isn't elite vertical production. If he hits the market as a cap casualty, that's one thing. But trading a premium pick for a possession receiver when you already have similar skill sets, that's where hesitation creeps in. DJ Moore is even more complicated. The talent has been proven in the past. Back-to-back seasons over 900 yards, nearly 1,400 yards in 2023, but the most recent production raises eyebrows. 50 receptions, 682 yards, 6 touchdowns. Those are solid numbers, but not $24.5 million cap hit numbers. If you're going to allocate that kind of money, you need consistent WR1 output. The upside argument is that in a stable system with Josh McDaniels and a developing quarterback like Drake Maye, Moore could bounce back. But you're betting on a resurgence while taking on a heavy financial commitment. And then we circle back to Jordan Addison. Purely from a football standpoint, he might be the cleanest fit. He can separate, he can score, he's shown he can produce touchdowns in volume, he's only 24, put him in a system where he's potentially the #1 option, and you might unlock another level. But the off-field history cannot be ignored. Speeding, DUI, trespassing, missing team responsibilities. The Patriots have to decide what their tolerance level is. Talent is one thing, reliability is another. When you're building culture around a young quarterback, that balance matters more than ever. This is where Elliott Wolf and the front office earn their paychecks. Are they aggressive? Are they cautious? Do they prioritize financial flexibility or immediate impact? Because make no mistake, adding the right receiver could accelerate this rebuild dramatically, but missing on the wrong one could set it back, because this decision will ultimately reveal how the Patriots truly view themselves right now. Are they a team that believes it's 1 or 2 explosive pieces away from accelerating into real contention? Or are they still in a phase where patience and long-term roster construction matter more than making a splash move? Everything keeps coming back to Drake Maye. When you watched the offense last season, one of the biggest problems wasn't just protection, it was separation. Too often, Maye was forced to hold on to the football, waiting for someone to win their route. And in the NFL, that hesitation kills drives. It leads to sacks, it leads to turnovers, it leads to stalled momentum. Young quarterbacks develop faster when the game slows down for them, and the game slows down when receivers create space quickly and consistently. Imagine what happens if you add a receiver who forces defenses to adjust their entire structure. Safeties can't creep forward, corners can't play tight underneath. Suddenly, the throwing windows get bigger, the timing improves, the confidence grows. That's the ripple effect of having a true difference maker at wide receiver. Brian Thomas Jr. represents that kind of gamble on upside. He hasn't hit his ceiling yet. He's still only 23 years old. If the Patriots believe their offensive system can unlock his full potential, he could grow alongside Drake Maye for years. That's how you build sustained offensive identity, not just short-term production, but long-term chemistry between quarterback and receiver. Jordan Addison offers a similar timeline alignment. He's young, he's explosive, he's proven he can produce touchdowns even in less than ideal quarterback situations. And if you place him in an offense where he becomes a primary focus instead of a secondary option behind Justin Jefferson, his numbers could rise rise dramatically. But again, the off-field concerns force the Patriots to ask themselves whether the risk is worth the reward. Michael Pittman Jr. and DJ Moore represent more established, known commodities. You know what they are. You know what they bring. Pittman brings size and reliability. Moore brings experience and versatility. But do either of them fundamentally change how defenses play against New England? That's the key question. Because the Patriots don't just need competence at wide receiver, they need impact. And this is why the financial side matters so much. Every dollar committed to one player limits flexibility elsewhere. If you commit over $20 million in cap space to a receiver, that player has to deliver consistent, high-level performance. Otherwise, you're restricting your ability to improve other areas of the roster, including the offensive line that protects your quarterback and the defensive front that controls games. This is the balancing act Elliott Wolf and the front office must navigate. Aggression versus discipline. Immediate help versus long-term sustainability. Star power versus cultural stability. Every move sends a message about the direction of the franchise. And here's the reality. Patriots fans understand better than anyone. Championships aren't built through desperation. They're built through calculated decisions. The right move isn't always the flashiest one. It's the one that fits the vision, the timeline, and the identity of the team. But at the same time, standing still isn't an option. The AFC continues to get more competitive. Teams are loading up with offensive weapons. Quarterbacks are developing faster than ever. If the Patriots want Drake Maye to reach his full potential, they must surround him with players who elevate his strengths and accelerate his growth. So now it comes down to what you believe is the right path forward. Should the Patriots take the risk and trade valuable draft capital for a young receiver with elite upside? Should they wait and preserve flexibility, trusting their scouting department to find the next breakout star in the draft? Or should they pursue a proven veteran who can stabilize the offense immediately? What makes this situation even more important is the timing. The Patriots are entering a phase where every move must align with the development curve of New England Patriots quarterback Drake Maye. When you have a young quarterback on a rookie contract, that's your window. That's when you can afford to be aggressive. That's when you can absorb contracts, take calculated risks, and build a supporting cast that grows together. And this is where the internal evaluation becomes critical, because from the outside, it's easy to say, go get a receiver. But inside the building, they're studying everything. They're studying separation metrics, they're studying route efficiency, they're studying how each receiver fits into Josh McDaniels' offensive structure. Not every talented receiver fits every system. The Patriots' offense requires discipline, timing, and the ability to read defenses the same way the quarterback does. Take someone like Brian Thomas Jr. If the Patriots believe his regression was tied to scheme limitations with the Jacksonville Jaguars, then internally they may view him as a breakout candidate waiting for the right environment. His size and speed combination is rare, and at 23 years old, he hasn't even entered his physical prime.